Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Reducing the Cost of Poor Quality, Strategies for Enhanced Financial Performance, sponsored by ETQ. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief for Quality Digest, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. So in today's webinar, we are going to discuss what the true cost of poor quality is and why it's important. This will include a comprehensive overview of the various costs associated with poor quality, so things like rework, scrap, customer complaints, warranty claims, and of course the brand reputation damage. We're also going to learn the role of automation, data analytics, and real-time monitoring in identifying quality issues, optimizing processes, and making informed decisions that positively impact your bottom line. Before we get started, just a reminder that you can send us questions using the Q&A box. You can find the Q&A button down there towards the bottom of your screen. Just mouse down, you should see it. It's a green button. Just click that button and send your questions to us as you think of them, and we will respond to them after the presentation. A recording of this webinar will be available one day after the webinar. At about this time, you'll get an email with that information from Quality Digest. Also, very important, for those of you who said you need a certificate of attendance, you have to answer one of the polling questions presented during this webinar. Okay, let's get started. Today's presenters will be Angela Anderson, Product Marketing Manager at ETQ. Also, Jennifer Bianchini, Senior Product Marketing Manager at ETQ, and Stephen Fisher, Product Manager at ETQ. Angela brings 20 years of experience in the aviation industry, supporting go-to-market for various, various hardware and software solutions. Before joining ETQ, Angela held several roles at Boeing companies Jeppesen and ForeFlight, and Robotic Skies, a commercial drone maintenance startup. Jennifer has more than 12 years of experience in lead marketing roles, from product marketing, demand generation, to product management. She has led go-to-market efforts for SaaS solutions in software development and DevSecOps, FinTech, ebook, and the print prepress industries. And finally, last but not least, Stephen has implemented software for more than 10 years across multiple markets and technologies. His work has taken him deep into the business processes, system functionalities, and planning necessary for successful ETQ Reliance implementations. And I believe, Angela, you are starting us off.
Thank you so much, Dirk, for the introduction. Happy to be here. And we will go ahead and, Dirk kind of gave you the lowdown of what we're going to cover today. So we'll just dive right in. And the poll questions, don't worry, they're easy. So it'll be easy to get your credit for the course today. And we're just going to take care of those off the top before we get rolling. First poll question: does your organization measure costs of poor quality? Just want to get a sense of how our audience is doing today. There should be a window there on your screen to make your choice.
Yeah. It's, cost of poor quality. It's funny. Within Quality Digest, cost of quality is one issue. Cost of poor quality is another. And usually, when we think about cost of quality, one way to look at that is, what does it cost, to implement a quality program, and is it worth it? And if you balance that against the cost of poor quality, what happens if you have poor quality? Yeah, sometimes the differences can be quite surprising. All right, we still got people. We're getting close to. We'll let this go another little bit. Let some stragglers kind of pick those up a little bit. Well, yeah, results are looking pretty interesting. We'll share those in just 1 second here.
So curious.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Kind of slowed down a little bit. Let's go ahead and end that, and let's share the results.
Okay, interesting. A few pros out there about are the poll results. Can the participants see that, Dirk, or
What's that?
can the participants or
Yeah,
attendees
participants can see it as well. So yeah, you all out
perfect.
there should be able to see the same thing.
Yeah, so we got a few pros, and Yes, but could do better. I think, yeah, that makes sense. Um, as people evolve in their quality journey,
Right.
it's an ongoing
And,
process.
and there are people who aren't quite sure what cost of poor quality actually is, which is something that you are going to be addressing today.
We're going to learn all about that today.
Yep. All
Great.
right. Let's
Okay.
stop sharing that one.
Okay. Now that we're warmed up with the first one, let's go ahead and for those of you who do track costs of poor quality, what is the biggest source of quality related costs for you? And we've got several options here for you.
Yeah.
If it's not listed here, maybe folks could drop a comment in
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yes,
yeah.
is if you're if one of these isn't what's most important to you, isn't the biggest problem you're seeing, just throw it in the Q&A. You can
Yeah.
just click the Q&A. Chat's not active, but the Q&A is active. So if there's something you want to throw at us that's not in this list, just go ahead and click the Q&A button down there and send it to us that way. And we'll take a quick look at those and see what you got. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, I'm not too surprised what I'm seeing right now. Okay, we'll let this go a little bit longer. And by the way, this is the last poll question. So if you need a certificate of attendance and you didn't answer the first poll question, be sure to answer this one. And by the way, sometimes people don't see the poll questions. Not sure what happens with that. That's a Zoom thing. If you don't see the poll questions and you haven't seen them, just send me a Q&A. Just put something in the Q&A that just said, hey, I didn't see the poll question. And that'll be kind of the acknowledgement that, you know, you tried to look at it but didn't see it. That's all you really need anyway. Okay, and we also have a couple Q&As. Okay. Oh, okay. All right, we'll comment on those in a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and share these results.
Drum roll.
Oh, share results. There we go.
Interesting. Yeah. Rework is a problem.
Yep. I'm not too surprised on that.
Yeah.
Now we
And
did get a few coming in the Q&A. We had a couple lack of effective configuration control in project management. Well, rework. Somebody else put in rework. Standard deviation over design to account for standard deviation. So kind of a yeah, kind of too much variation. That sounds like what they're saying. So they're over designing to account, and you don't want to over design because that's wasted money. And then manufacturing issues. Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody for
Right.
sharing your insights with us. Okay. Let's roll. So I want to dive into this discussion, just starting off with this quote from quality pioneer Philip Crosby. Quality is free. It's not a gift, but it's free. The unquality things are what cost money. He's saying we all have to work on quality. It's kind of this never-ending daily discipline, and there's no escaping that. But when you've got a culture of quality, whatever system you're using, in the end, pays for itself and more through continuous improvement and preventing all of the unquality things that we're going to take a look at in a moment. So, as you know, the topic of this presentation is strategies for enhanced financial performance through reducing cost of poor quality. So, the first step in thinking about that strategy is defining what we mean by cost of poor quality. And if you said, Angela, it's the costs associated with providing poor quality products and services. Uh, and if you said that to me, I would definitely agree. It's a great place to start. Yet it's just kind of scratching the surface. There's more to this story. So let's peel a few more layers from this onion. What kinds of costs are we talking about? So really there's two categories of costs related to when the results of your work fail to meet the quality requirements. There's internal failure costs, which are incurred to remedy defects discovered before the product or service is delivered to the customer. And then there's the dreaded external failure costs that are incurred to remedy defects discovered by your customers. not a happy place to be. So internal failure costs include things like waste related to performing unnecessary work or holding stock as a result of errors. I think we've seen that already in the poll, doing this extra work and having to order extra material. It could be just poor organization or a lack of timely communication. You're scrapping defective product or material that just can't be repaired or used or sold in some fashion. And again, like the rework to correct defective material or errors that are happening in manufacturing. And this is kind of how those hidden factories get built when these things go under the radar and are siloed from quality assurance processes. So external failure costs include things like handling and investigating rejected or recalled products, also kind of known as RMAs, including those transportation costs, which these days, those shipping costs can be more than just the core like handling of the return material authorization. Warranty claims to replace those failed products or reperform services in the field, on basically all the work and costs associated with handling and servicing customer complaints. So just when you think that's enough, like enough with the cost, Angela, but wait, there is more. Cost of poor quality are a part of a bigger total cost of quality picture, and the other side of this coin are the cost of good quality. So cost of good quality um, comprise appraisal costs, which are incurred to determine the degree of conformance to quality to your quality requirements. Are we building the right thing right? And then there's also prevention costs, and those are incurred to keep the failure, internal and external failure costs, and those appraisal costs to a minimum. So these good quality costs represent the in a way, they represent that thoughtful quality processes that you put in place. There's, of course, a cost to doing inspections, to audits, or managing audits, tracking supplier performance, but standardizing and optimizing these processes becomes an investment to achieve your long-term organizational objectives to produce higher quality products, increase revenue margins, increase productivity, protect your brand reputation. And for the math nerds in the house, here is our cost of quality equation. It's this total cost of quality measure. It's an important business metric that we can use to determine the costs that would disappear if all failures were removed from your products, your services, your processes. And it's often measured and shown in this way as a percentage of sales or total operational costs. And we can go deeper still on the costs of poor quality. Some costs are extremely visible, really visible to the C-suite and even shareholders through 10K reports, through balance sheets and cash flow statements, because people can see, how inventories are trending and the like. But danger definitely lurks below the surface in the form of hidden costs. And hidden costs kind of beg the question, what is the ripple effect of an issue throughout your organization? For example, what's the impact when non-conforming, incoming raw material holds up production? Do you order more material than needed to compensate? Are you late on delivery to customers because of this? Is your reputation or your certification at stake if an issue escapes to the market? And what does that mean for future opportunities? So there's a lot of hidden risk and cost here, and many of these costs, the costs like these accumulate. Either it's time, it's money, or both, because they are hidden. And according to the American Society for Quality, or ASQ, many organizations will have true quality related costs as high as 15 to 20% of sales revenue, some going as high as even 40% of total operations. And general rule of thumb, and this may vary, but that cost of poor quality in a thriving, healthy company will be about 10 to 15% of operations. So that just kind of gives you a sense of the magnitude, and then compare hidden costs compared to those visible costs. Very important to look at those because they can far exceed that hidden kind of ripple effect can far exceed what you're seeing in visible costs. All right, so moving along, why focus on this? I think the reasons are starting to become clear here. Costs of poor quality are an important communication tool to raise awareness of the importance of quality and the positive impact it can have on the financial health of your organization. Making these costs, they're beacons of opportunity, essentially, and reducing them makes a direct contribution to your bottom line. And perhaps a bit of a startling truth, an interesting way to put this, is that costs of poor quality are things organizations choose to pay for. Our old friend Philip Crosby referred to cost of poor quality as the price of nonconformance, and argued that organizations choose to pay for poor quality. It's kind of a jolting way to think about it, that it is a choice. And to me, choice equates to strategy. If there's a choice, then there's the makings of a strategy. And at ETQ, we do believe that quality is strategic, and it's more than compliance. It's strategic, and companies can create a distinct competitive advantage through a focus on quality. Think faster time to market with higher quality. Cost of poor quality data also empowers you as a quality professional to get strategic and speak the language of business. And that language is all about cost and risk. And there's a lot of risk tied up in some of those hidden costs. Their time to market, poor supplier relationships, etc. Your finance colleagues will appreciate the insights to monitor and manage revenue and margins. Operations folks are going to like the insight into those internal and external factors that impact these costs of poor quality. Engineering folks are going to like seeing insights that can go towards their product development and manufacturing design. The product folks are going to want to understand what the market is saying, and having that customer complaint insight is a huge bonus. Procurement, to have the insights and the capability to recover costs from suppliers, very powerful use case. If you're looking to expand, start a quality program, get the program wrangled at your organization, introduce some new technology and get your quality journey going, or even just advance from where you are today, it's difficult to, for example, turn a dock control and training program as a standalone into a compelling cost benefit for your CFO if you're relying on them to help make a funding decision. So if you can identify those non-quality things that cost money or create risk and turn that information into your business case, that creates the path for buy-in as you look to expand your program. And quality has that level of impact because quality touches every aspect of the product lifecycle, from designing quality into the product at the outset. We mentioned building the right thing right, ensuring receipt of those high quality goods from your suppliers, and being able to hold your suppliers accountable, managing quality during manufacturing and assembly, gathering that feedback on quality and performance from your customer base, and then having this closed loop quality, or having a closed loop quality system has these feedback loops built in across this life cycle. The added challenge is to centralize, harmonize, scale all of this across all your sites, allowing you to go after those systemic costs of poor quality and cross-pollinate those learnings. What's happening at one location may be a problem at another. It just hasn't been, the data hasn't been visible to know that that's happening. So just raising awareness on a global level. And that the only way to really manage this level of complexity, all of these touch points, and having closed loops, harmonizing across your global enterprise, the automations, all of that, you need to have the right tools and technology. In other words, a purpose-built digital QMS solution. The necessary workflow automations and traceability and all those things are just not possible with paper or kind of siloed manual processes. And as a quality professional with the right tools, I believe you are more, and we at ETQ believe you are more empowered than you know to collect the right data, analyze the trends, connect the dots, facilitate that communication, and really make that impact on all of these costs of quality that we've looked at so far. So now that you know what the costs of quality are and why it's important to focus on them, you can start picking that low-hanging fruit and create your plan or expand your plan. Maybe you're well on this, well along on this journey, but it's a repeated process. So with all of that said, at this point, I'm going to hand over to Stephen, and he's going to help illustrate how, with an enterprise QMS platform like ETQ Reliance, you can make these things a reality in your own organization.
Okay, and while they're switching over there, actually, if you'll. Yeah, as we wait for Stephen to get there, just a reminder that you can send us questions at any time. A couple of you already have. Use the Q&A button down there at the bottom of your screen. Just click that and send us questions as you think of them. And okay, Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. Thank you, Dirk. As you've heard throughout this presentation so far, there's a lot of why involved in capturing the cost of poor quality. And at the end of the day, as I see it, it really is to increase the revenue. And when we're talking dollars and cents for me, that's when it starts to get really exciting. Away from the theory and more into the real life, here's how we actually do good work and make improvements. And so I'm happy just to present today some of our basic setups that we enable in ETQ Reliance to capture this basic cost of poor quality and enable organizations to act on it and actually get back those dollars and cents where applicable and where possible. You'll bear with me. I didn't want to just jump into the system kind of willy-nilly and start showing records without some sort of relationship to give you an understanding of what we're looking at. So before we actually look at the ETQ system, let me introduce first and foremost a process overview for a closed loop solution that brings about quality improvement for what we would call just a general manufacturer, a discrete manufacturer who's making household items for customers. And in our scenario here, what we'll see is that this closed loop solution, it's never just one organization or one department that's helping resolve these quality issues. It spans the full width of what the organization's context is, and specifically includes delivery to these customers all the way back into supplier procurements and gathering of materials from suppliers. So in our closed loops quality solution, let's assume that we have, in fact, what would be here kind of the worst case, which is that a customer has, in fact, received some sort of defective product, and they're needing to raise an issue with that product to our organization, to the manufacturing organization. Typically, what would take place is they're calling a call center or submitting some sort of electronic form online, where if you have a CRM such as Salesforce, it can be used to intake that information from the customer and begin working it. From that intake of information, we can then introduce a quality system such as ETQ Reliance to take the customer feedback from the CRM, or perhaps just manually if there is no CRM, and we create a customer feedback record within ETQ. That ensures the appropriate quality personnel are first notified of this issue and are given the tools they need to work with the customer to define a solution. If along the investigation we determine that there is in fact a defective product at play, typically what will take place is the customer feedback record, where we're working with the customer, is going to transition or create actually a non-conformance record, an NCR. And it's in these non-conformance records that our common material review boards and dispositioning are taking place to determine how we're actually going to resolve this immediate quality issue that impacted our customer. Additionally, the NCR is not just a customer feedback tool. Any sort of product defects that we encounter either in the manufacturing process on a production line, or perhaps in the receiving station as reviewing and inspecting incoming shipments. Anywhere a product defect is identified throughout the organization, we can create a single non-conformance record to help understand and triage that issue. So if we had a customer issue and knew it was really just a one-off, we've not seen it before, we don't think there's any design issues, from this individual process where we have our customer leading to the non-conformance, the non-conformance disposition is often enough to close that customer issue. And so if it's a minor issue, maybe this is all we need. However, in quality, especially quality is often like an onion. There are many, many layers of issues, and occasionally this is not just a one-off, it's something a little bit larger, which we need to look at. Thankfully, the processes are in place within our QMS to handle this, specifically if it's a supplier issue causing this non-conformance. We can create a supplier corrective action and then collaborate with our suppliers to resolve this issue. Further on, that leads into audits, where perhaps we're using audits to either monitor and onboard our suppliers into the QMS solution, or we're using audits to track our other processes that aren't necessarily this specific flow that gets a product into a customer's hands. And now what we have is we have a quality event application and record where if we're finding issues that are above sort of a minimum threshold of risk, not only do we can use those non-conformances and other source records to just resolve the quick ones, we can launch into these quality events when we need more details or more investigation to determine what the true problem truly is. Quality events in our case is where we'll take these larger problems, perform risk, perform investigation analysis, determine root cause, and potentially track and trend it. And occasionally, if it's of course a higher enough issue, we create a corrective action with action planning approval. Now what we have is the tools that we need to resolve larger issues that are maybe recurring, more sort of higher cost as opposed to the one-offs which we've talked about previously. Our corrective action process continues in that action planning and approval. There's often updates to documents, either design files or procedure documents, work instructions that are necessary to truly resolve these issues that are cropping up at a more kind of medium and high severity. And with document control updates always comes the afterwork of training your workforce to understand how to perform these new processes or work with these new designed materials. When we have large scale issues that are first identified at the customer and then fed through the QMS to eventually result in training updates to our process or materials that we provide to our customers, that completes the full loop. And that's really one of the main values of having a QMS in the first place, so that you can have an electronic system that helps you coordinate all these different processes and people that are working those processes into a single system that's enables you to capture the issues, analyze, resolve, and then report on later on. So this is the picture. This is kind of the story map that I wanted to present here today. Let's dig a little bit deeper into some of these and actually talk about how these records, we can use the cost of poor quality fundamentals to track not just that the process is occurring, but actually what are the sub-costs within each of these processes. So let's jump into a live demo. What we'll find in ETQ when people log in is often people want to see first and foremost, what do they need to do immediately? And within our system, that's often as a day-to-day quality persona. That's who I'm working as today. When I log in, I'm going to immediately be able to see those quality records that need my attention. And in our case here, we have a few corrective actions, some non-conformances, and quality events. From a strategy perspective, if we're talking about cost of quality, it is not typically occurring and being tracked at this individual sort of day-by-day person doing the job in the system. As a person in the system, I'm contributing absolutely, but it's often difficult for me to get the full picture to understand the work that I'm doing as it relates to, the total cost of quality for some specific process. So what we've seen is, yes, there is typically this immediate action of what I need to do, but when really trying to analyze the cost of poor quality within an organization, what we tend to do is create dashboards or charts and reports that highlight the specific costs for the individual organization's individual processes. That is to say that right now, from a QMS perspective, kind of a trending perspective, the gathering of these data points that go into providing any sort of chart or report, it's hard to say that there's a global standard that can be applied to every organization. In fact, there's not at this time. The industry is working there. And so what we've built is we've enabled some charts that kind of key off of those individual processes we looked at a little bit earlier. Our first issue was that there was, in fact, a customer issue. And we can see from our chart here that there is a range of customer issues this year. Specifically, it looks like we have a little bit of a delivery issue occurring within the system and therefore within real life. That's worthy of some investigation, is what I'd say. Additionally, we have non-conformance disposition costs to consider. If we look, we have a limit of about $3,000 in this case that we're trying to stay under for the given quarter, but we can identify that the rework work cost is much higher than the quarter than somebody like me who's experienced with the data would expect. And in just a moment, we'll dive into that to talk about how are we capturing that data, plus how are we resolving those rework extra efforts going forward. Further on down, the cost of poor quality is not just about dollars and cents cost. It's very often about time spent in a given process. And for that time spent, we'll look at some records as well that capture how many open records are there for a given department. And further on, that just enables us to do more and more as we start to break down work spent at an individual part level, perhaps at how much an individual part is costing us within the system. So again, the dashboards and the reports that we get out of a system like ETQ are enabled by the strategy and decision-making that's put up front. In this example, the organization has decided that they want to track cost impacts for every customer issue, and they've decided that they want to track costs for every sort of non-conformance that comes across the door. That's a decision that has to be made first and foremost, and it has to be made because it impacts the procedures and work instructions that are going to be supporting those who execute the process in real life. So as a company, we've made decisions that we want to track these individual items that link to cost in our processes. And now we have the charts enabled to do so. Okay. So above and beyond the charts that are really just great discussions for those management review meetings that happen every month, that's when this would be important. We want to look at what we're tracking monthly and can then take action at a higher level than just the day-to-day. Let's dive into some of these items and actually identify how are we tracking these costs within the record itself. You'll bear with me, I'm an administrator, and so when I click on a chart, I get to alter what's called the chart template. That's basically, as an admin, if I wanted to modify how the chart is displayed. Not so much important here. What is important is about diving into those individual chart records. So we can actually see the records that are creating this data within the system. And in our case here, what I've done is I drilled down into our rework for this non-conformance this quarter, and we can see that there are 4 non-conformance records. And if we continue our analysis, we can see the part impacted in those records. It's 2 different parts, but one of them is occurring multiple times. And for that part, what we see is that part is actually resulting in the most cost associated with each of these non-conformances as it relates to materials and labor. And furthermore, if we look at the non-conformances, we can see that for those 3 parts, we determined that the supplier was at fault for 2 of them, but the first one, the top one here, there's no supplier at fault. And so again, strategically, we decided we want to track this cost. We've done so, and in that tracking, we've now have a list of records that are costing us money, so to speak. And at a first kind of response as a quality person, I get excited because now this is data that I can actually review and use to analyze and investigate and make sure that my organization is doing kind of what it's supposed to do. The fact that one of these is a not supplier fault, but the other two, like for me, that automatically leads me to want to dive into that individual record for why it's not a supplier fault. And so let's do so here and now. Excuse me, a tiny colleague asking for a snack on the background. Okay, yeah, so within our non-conformance record, what we're doing in non-conformance, I would say, is rather industry standard. There's not going to be too much here that's an ETQism. Anybody working in non-conformance is ideally set to work in these types of record. For non-conformance, we have our, of course, non-conformance workflow up at the top that's tracking the individual phases of who's doing what, when within this record. And then we also track our non-conformance type, link this to either suppliers or customers that have reported the issue. And then further down, we track what material or product is actually impacted in this non-conformance. And we can see based on the lookup functionality in the system, we have our aluminum plate stock is impacted. And it looks like we have about 20 of those that are specifically addressed in this non-conformance. Due to the nature of this non-conformance as well, we're at a point where we know the disposition. And for disposition, we can see that the supplier fault not being selected as a no and rework here is in fact where we get a lot of those record numbers in our charts. Somebody made the decision that this was not an issue and required rework. And again, if we're thinking kind of monthly meetings about there's discussions about this could absolutely be an opportunity to launch maybe an action or some other discussion point to raise this and say, hey, should this in fact be a supplier fault with a supplier corrective action or a return to supplier? And it's those types of discussion which start, in my mind, the opportunity for a company to gain money back at an individual record level. So here already we see there's a little bit of disalignment due to internal data entry, and there's a chance here to seize back some of the cost here of this disalignment by working closer with our suppliers to get a resolution. One thing we don't call out specifically here is the actual cost and timelines that have been spent in the non-conformance process. Just in our system, those tend to be pretty generic. And so I'll highlight here that when we talk about a specific part and a specific quantity, really what's happening in the background is based on that product and quantity, we'd be pulling the material cost of that impacted quantity from something like an ERP system, where products and their costs are defined from a master data perspective. If you find you don't have that ERP to track individual part costs, this can absolutely be saved in ETQ Reliance. And so at the end of the day, one factor that we're capturing here to know cost of poor quality is material cost. That is very much something that we need to know, especially if we're a company that provides products as materials to our customers. Another item that we're tracking here is labor costs. Anytime there's a non-conformance in this organization, this example organization, we are automatically tacking on a default $150 in this case, because we know that's going to cost our organization time to go look and investigate what took place. It's when we have additional things like rework or other jobs that must be done, we'll see this labor cost uptick as the amount of time our operators are spending on the rework increases. So within a non-conformance, we not only track the issues, but we're able to track the cost and labor of triaging and dispositioning those issues. And that gives us a very nice dollar figure to understand and work off of to build our story of improvement with cost of quality. Besides the dollar figure as well, there's often time to consider. And I'm happy to say that ETQ's workflow in the system, anytime we're making a status change, is tracking those dates of who did what and how long it took. And that data point is absolutely available to build into our charts and reports so that we know at the end of the day, this nonconformance not only cost us, what was it, 400 material dollars and 150 labor dollars just for the record, but we can know over time as this thing's processing, was there additional time spent in something like a disposition where it took longer than we expected? Was there, a delay in verification? All those little nitty-gritty things can get added into the total picture. And it's that total picture which enables us to go back into our charts, our reports, and say, this is good, but it could be better. And again, the name of the game for me is like identifying where these costs and issues take place. That's the baseline. We need to know where we're spending those dollars at first. But then as you're working in to understand that baseline, there's huge opportunities to start uncovering those hidden costs and tracking those as well and building reports for those as well. And I think just from an industry perspective, people are pretty familiar. Wow. People are pretty familiar with how to track those baseline costs and time spent on activities. Where the real exciting stuff is happening nowadays is how you uncover those hidden costs and track and report on those. I'll admit there's not maybe a common solution there just yet, but if you have any questions, we would love to have a conversation because, showing the proof point and numbers that quality does provide value, that's the name of the game for us in the quality world. And that's how quality gets a seat at the higher level tables in line with any organization across any department across your organization. So I'll stop here. That's it for our live demo. Let's go back to our demo, and I'd like to hand it over to Jennifer, who's going to wrap it up with some actual use cases and success stories from customers that use us day in, day out.
Thank you, Stephen. And if you wouldn't mind to unshare your screen, and then we can get this going. Thank you.
And as Jennifer is getting her screen share set up here, just a reminder, Q&A. I see we do have questions coming in on Q&A. Thanks for those of you who are doing that. If you weren't aware of it, you can ask us questions by mousing towards the bottom of your screen, clicking the Q&A button, and continue sending us questions. Thanks to those of you who are already sending some in. That's awesome. Thanks. Go ahead, Jennifer.
All right, thank you. All right, so that was very in-depth and insightful, Stephen. Really appreciate that deep dive. So we are now at a point in this webinar where we would like to share with you some examples of customers who have received the benefits of ETQ Reliance. The first one I'd like to share is Trane Technologies. If you're not familiar with Trane, they are a global manufacturer of heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration systems, both for commercial and residential use. Their quality journey with ETQ began 10 years ago, and they have been focused on ROI at each step of their phased approach. They were focused on solving their most frequent quality problems, which were waste, scrap, and non-conforming material issues. So they started with applications to help bring order to their internal functions and their supply base. They launched non-conforming materials, process and product deviation, internal and supplier corrective action. Trane likes to think of ETQ Reliance as a data superhighway, facilitating data transfer throughout all areas of its business. They've also gone deep into breaking down those external silos with their suppliers. Also, a powerful ERP integration has allowed them to automatically debit for non-conforming supplier material and then resolve the credit through the supplier corrective action process. The results of their quality journey is quite impressive, as you can see here. The next customer success story I'd like to share with you is Lumileds. They are a global leader in lighting engineering and technology. They manufacture LEDs and automotive lighting products. For Lumilids, a key part of their culture is quality and continuous improvement. They have a Kaizen module in Reliance. And if you're wondering, Kaizen is Japanese for improvement. This module is a part of a continuous improvement suite that serves as a centralized location for employees to provide input and ideas and programs for CI throughout the organization. So before implementing Reliance, they were working with 900 different quality solutions across 24 global facilities. They didn't have consistency or data sharing. Their processes were inconsistent on the manual side, and that can be costly. And also, they really wanted the ability to use quality data to drive improvement. And as you can see, their results are also impressive. So we're going to transition now to wrapping up our presentation, and then we will open it up for Q&A. So no matter where you are in your quality journey, we're here to help. From calculating the ROI for your business case to mapping out your deployment strategy or providing any level of onboarding support you need. With a comprehensive, purpose-built QMS like ETQ Reliance, you can reduce costs, streamline operations, build compliance into your processes, and mitigate supplier quality risks. And all of this results in improving efficiency, time to market, sustainability, and bottom line results. We'd love the opportunity to share our expertise and help you along your quality journey. As you can see, with ETQ, you're in good company. We serve hundreds of customers in all shapes and sizes across many industries. This slide here gives you a good sense of our range from discrete manufacturing, food and beverage, pharmaceutical, medical devices, and much more. We apply learning and best practices from across all of these industries to provide unique value to all of our customers. For over 30 years, ETQ has empowered quality champions to use quality management as a catalyst for business success. We offer flexible, scalable, easy to use QMS solution that's purpose-built to connect quality processes to all areas of your organization. We have industry knowledge and expertise across many industries, which is reflected in our diverse customer base. We aim to be a trusted advisor to our customers, helping to guide them along their quality journey. Also, we are part of Hexagon, a global leader in sensor, software, and autonomous manufacturing solutions. Okay, before we open up the Q&A, we just want to review with you what we hope you take away with you today. Angela, do you mind taking the first one?
Hey, Jennifer. Yeah, thanks for sharing all those great customer stories. So yeah, let's we like Jennifer said, we just thought we would pose a few takeaways. Hopefully, if you've got others, drop those in the Q&A chat. Would love to hear what you'll take away from this presentation. And my big one from this presentation is this quote: think big, start small, move fast. And this, as you saw, is from our customer Trane Technologies, and they absolutely live by this philosophy. With the with the possibilities at your disposal, with the flexibility and configurability of the ETQ Reliance platform, the ability to integrate with different business systems and create the solution that works for you. It's it's how big is your imagination when it comes to deploying your quality management system. The tools are there to build what you need and what you want. So that's one. I love that. Start with the, little Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind, think big. Where do you want to be? What are your business objectives? How are you gonna, what are those big goals that you're going after as far as an organization? But then starting small, like Jennifer also talked about with the quality journey, you can start in the most specific use case where you're feeling the most pain today, where you're going to get, make a big impact, a quick win to start building that momentum. So keeping that North Star in mind, but starting where it makes sense for you. And then as you get those early quick wins, you're going to build that momentum and be able to move faster and faster because people are going to see those results. And you're going to gather that buy-in, and more people are going to want to participate in what you're doing because they see the results. So I think Trane Technologies has absolutely lived that. It is possible. It just takes that, the willingness to kind of keep pushing it forward, and getting all players, all stakeholders in the room to set that plan in motion. So anyway, I feel a little passionate about that one. So
it sounds like it. It's great. Thank you. Well, I just want to share the one. I hope that they take away with them that, as I had mentioned before, ETQ is here for you, regardless, like I said, where you are in your quality journey. Our enterprise QMS SaaS platform, Reliance, it has, so as you saw from Stephen, so much robust functionality to help you establish a cost recovery program with your suppliers. And then
that's a big one. That's a big one. Because there can be, how long does it take to close a scar? Like how long is it sitting there? And what's the communication like? Are you even getting a response? Are you able to provide the documentation, the evidence of what you're trying to recover, and getting that in front of the supplier in a timely manner? Having a centralized system to track all of that in the moment as you're going about your daily business, and being able to pull those things quickly and get it in front of the supplier, it's makes a big impact. Very powerful.
So we have our last one here.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, so just getting a handle on the cost of poor quality. We took a pretty deep dive on what they are, and so it's a matter of choosing what's important to your organization. We did the polling. A lot of you guys are struggling with rework. What's going on with the rework? What kinds of rework? What are the root cause categories in that realm of rework? Kind of dig into that data, and see where that is coming from. And the more you do that, the more kind of organizational muscle you build around doing root cause and determining why you're having to do this rework, and the decisions that are made as a result of that. Like your ability to make decisions and move more quickly and make improvements, it's going to increase that velocity for you, to be able to make decisions and move on and have people make assessments, and kind of understand the impact and keep the process moving, which of course all feeds into this idea of the overall financial health of your organization and the impact that quality makes to that.
Absolutely. So I think we are now at a good point where we can start taking some questions.
All right, and we have quite a few. We'll get through a few of them here. And maybe, is it okay with you guys if we run over the top of the hour a little bit, or do you guys got a hard stop right at the top?
I have time. I can stick around.
Okay. Yeah, we can stick around a little bit. Okay, just
Yeah,
so we
and
get some questions in here.
Yeah, folks have to leave. What you don't hear will be in the recording, so you can catch
and
up
also,
later.
if we don't get to your questions, the questions are all being forwarded to ETQ. Somebody will get to you offline, even if we don't get to them here. Look, I always love this question. We get it almost every webinar. So, do you have any? Whoops, it shifted. Somebody else asked a question and it moved. Where'd it go? Hold on one second. Oh yeah. Do you have any recommendations on how to encourage operators and supervisors to fill out the data needed. Data is gold, but from my experience, data input is not a priority for operators and supervisors. So how do you get people to actually, you've got this great tool, ETQ Alliance, how do you get people to actually use it?
I'll take that
Stephen.
one out if I can. The answer there is that's common. Human nature doesn't want to add in additional inputs if you don't have to. So our approach to it is to capture it automatically. The configurability of ETQ enables us to basically log events and data as if it were coming from a user. And so if we're trying to track time, we're using configurability to track when did they open the record, when did they close it, and just set that automatically. If you need manual inputs, which often is very much the case, the only way that we can recommend to get those is to do kind of a continuous training program to remind people that they're important. And at the end of the day, these numbers are not, we're trying to reinforce that we're not trying to pin a cost on an individual person. We're pinning that cost to the process. And if we can get enough buy-in initially, generally these types of organizations or departments which are pushing back, we're saving them money as a win here. So like it becomes easier and easier the more proof points that there's a positive you have.
Yeah, that's great, Stephen. I wanted to add maybe a couple other thoughts to that as well. Yeah. So one thing to think about with the configurability, I mean, even out of the box, but the configurability of ETQ, you can make that form. You want to think about your form design is the point I'm trying to get to. If there are particular, users that only, it's a long form, but they are only concerned with, a certain section of that, you can configure it so that only what's relevant to that user, that operator, is displayed for them. So it could be, if they feel like it's a lot of work to have to scroll through and figure out where they're needing to enter the data. So, from a user experience perspective, that may be one, just making it easier for people to interact with the form. And then in a similar vein, we have, you can create a mobile version of forms. So if there are folks out, in the field or in the plant floor or whatever that maybe don't have immediate access to a desktop, they can use a mobile device to quickly enter information or gather data that may be a more convenient vehicle for them to contribute that data into ETQ Alliance. So just a couple, and actually the third one that I would maybe recommend, incentive. Is there like a little contest with so many complete forms in a month, you get a gift certificate, something like that. So,
here's a question that also comes up very frequently. How can the cost of good quality be sold to top management within the organization? How do you sell them? And I'd say I would be even more specific. I would say, you've got a product, you've got ETQ Reliance, right? There's a cost associated with that, but it's going to help control the cost of poor quality. How do you sell this idea of spending money on quality, which is the way I read this, to top management?
I'm happy to take that, Angela, unless you want to, or Jennifer.
Yeah, sure. We can tag team on that. Go ahead.
For me, it's all about a little bit strategy, where you have to kind of start knowing what you're looking for and what messaging you're trying to raise. As for example, a quality person, you may know that you're having to do this non-conformance MRB process on a given part, day in, day out, every so often. And like you already have that kind of inkling in your head, and now you're trying to understand how can you raise that a little bit louder to the C-levels and management. Knowing that there's a problem is kind of the first thing, and knowing maybe specifically at least what are the outcomes of that problem. We're wasting time. For me, that's where it starts, and then industry trends would have me say the term here is it's ROI tracking, return on investment tracking. So if you know you're wasting time and you want to raise that as an issue, the next step to get to that, into those discussions and have a firm seat, is to say specifically, here's how much this is costing us. or here's how much we would get back if we spent this. And from quality people, that's generally kind of a new thing to do. But that's absolutely what we've seen as the best opportunity to raise these type of quality issues, to gain buy-in and investments as needed to make improvements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, did you
Just
want
to,
to add to that,
yeah,
Angela? Okay.
I love that, Stephen. Yeah, I totally agree that it's, identifying where are you going to make the biggest impact, and kind of understanding like what are the quality objectives for your organization? Are there quality objectives established for your organization? And like we looked at earlier, and like Stephen was saying, it all comes down to like how can you demonstrate the cost savings and the risk if you don't take these actions, because you can't really address costs of poor quality without some cost incurred for good quality. You have to manage this. There's a cost to managing the system, but that investment far outweighs the savings you're going to attain in time, money, and we've got the benchmarks to help you prove that from existing customers, but we can also illustrate that benchmark for your own organization. So as a part of engaging with ETQ, we have the tools to take data from your organization and personalize an ROI assessment and your time to value assessment, and that can really help you illustrate that that cost savings story, that financial impact story, and we can help guide give you the tools, help you guide, or help guide you through that process of making sure the right people are in the room, that you're asking the right questions, and kind of presenting it in a way that is going to get that attention. So would love to talk to you more about where you're at in your journey.
Okay. Let's take a couple more questions here. This one is specific to ETQ Reliance, I think. We use ETQ but don't have quality event. Audit findings are in CAPA. So when quality event is implemented, do findings get created as a quality event instead of CAPA, or will we be able to choose which we want to create?
I'll take that one. The corrective action, the quality event application actually for us is fairly new. I think it was only about 2 years ago that we've released it. So anybody with ETQ now, you would not generally have it out of the box, as we say. In corrective action, there's an opportunity that findings are resulting in either corrective actions or what we call recommendations, which is kind of a smaller action item within the audit. That is slowly going away because your auditor isn't going to often know about if there is a need for a corrective action or if a small sort of action to do is sufficient. So quality events is definitely gaining ground as the resulting record if there is a finding. And it's really why we present it here, because quality events is becoming the one-stop shop for any sort of, actual quality issue, which an audit may identify, or, even just an opportunity for improvement. So hopefully that answered the question. We'd love to talk more about it and getting you that quality event application, but I can say it's just not there in audits tied in right now.
Okay. Looks like another ETQ related question. When doing the non-conformance, can you integrate this with Kinetics to put inventory on hold for containment if required?
I'm not familiar with Kinetics, but just based on the question, it sounds like a manufacturing execution system. And in that case, yes, is the answer. We have web service technology. We thrive in RESTful web service integrations. We've built cases where there's inventory holds plus inventory releases based on the non-conformance status.
Yep, and that's through ERP integration. That's exact. Our customer Train Technologies has taken that to the ultimate, the ultimate integration with cost recovery type integration with suppliers. So there's all sorts of things we can do with an ERP integration, a customer management system integration, MES, like Stephen was talking about. So yeah, it's very, very open, customizable ecosystem.
Okay. And let's make this the last question. And then, like I said, if we didn't get to your questions, don't worry. The rest of these will be forwarded on to ETQ and they can answer offline here. If we have a very small life cycle, I'm assuming they mean a product with a short life cycle, should we still consider a poor cost of quality or cost of poor quality?
I think it's good for any size product life cycle, because there's always no matter what you're making or service you're providing for customer, there's always opportunity for improvement, no matter how big or small your organization or the size of your offering. I think it's
Right.
good for anyone to look at.
And actually, let's expand on that a little bit. If you're thinking about something like a QMS system like ETQ, is this something that's only for large companies, or is this something that really is applicable to smaller companies as well?
All of the above is the answer there. The full process map that I showed where everything's interconnected, for me, that's like the fully deployed QMS for, those large scale product delivery companies. But the components of that, document control, non-conformance, corrective action, those are standard QMS. Any type of business that's interested in keeping good quality would have interest in and could use.
Okay.
So yeah, just repeating what Angela said, there's not a level that cost of poor quality now becomes applicable. It's really at the process level that it's applicable. And if you're trying to improve an individual process, and if you have any product delivery mechanisms, then there's a potential that this is going to add value to those processes.
Okay. All right, well, guys, thanks for staying after a little bit and taking a few of these questions. I appreciate that. So, Angela, Jennifer, Stephen, thanks. It was a great presentation. Got some good comments from the audience out there.
Yeah, thanks,
Thanks,
Dirk.
everyone.
Sure. And just a reminder to those of you who asked, you will be getting an email in about 24 hours from now with a link to a recording of the webinar. And also ETQ will be sending out a PDF of the slides sometime within the next couple of days. So keep your eyes open for that as well. So you will get all these materials in one way or another. So that is it from all of us here at Quality Digest and ETQ. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you at the next webinar. So long.
Excellent.